Can you hear me?
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dialogues About Death show with your host, Chris Miller. Hi, Chris.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's National Pie Day.
It is National Pie Day. You're right.
And we're not even talking about pie during this episode, but I had to throw that in there. It's 3/14. Happy National Pie Day. But I know we've got other things to talk about.
It's true. It's true. But you know what? There is a gratitude. My husband's favorite thing is pie. So we're always
Oh, mine too.
grateful for Pie Day. So that ties in with the theme,
Absolutely.
right?
The thing is, I've given up desserts over the next 40 days because of fasting.
Oh,
So no pie for me today.
oh my
Oh,
gosh. Well, you have so much self-control. Good for you.
yeah, it's gonna be tough, but we'll get through it.
I was raised Catholic, and we had as well and I know it's not just a Catholic thing, but I was a little
Yeah.
girl. We were required to give something up, so I was bad because I gave up something we never had at the house, which was soda. I said I give up soda, and my mom never bought it, so it was so easy. And my
Oh, Mary, shame on you.
I know, and my daughter actually admitted that we never allowed them to have gum, so she gave up gum. So
Oh, God bless her.
right, yeah, apples and far, 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 far from the tree. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Well, just a little housekeeping. Welcome again to March. Today's theme is how to find peace in gratitude, because
Yeah.
March is kind of the with St. Patty's Day, and which is coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
I always think of like blessings and peace is
Yeah.
in March. So that's why we picked this theme. And we have gotten a lot of questions online about this topic. And so we have
Yeah.
some really deep questions for Chris today. We are so excited because we had a guest that's going to be coming on in a future show, and she's a grief coach. And
Yeah.
she's going to be chiming in the comments to kind of get us ready for having her as a guest on the next show or two. So we're excited for that coming up. And just so I can get that out of the way, our next show is on April 11th. So we have a show
Yeah.
coming up, and we haven't picked the theme yet. So if anybody has any ideas, please put them in the comments. So, okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to get right into this. And we do have somebody who joined us, Kathy. Gotta love her.
Good morning,
Good
Kathy.
morning, Kathy. Kathy is the funeral director at the La Sierra Chapel in
Yeah.
Riverside, California, and she is just lovely. You can see by her adorable picture there. She is such a gracious host, and just does an amazing job in the Riverside.
They're doing a great job over there at La Sierra Chapel.
Yes, yes. So thank
Big
you,
team of.
Kathy. You didn't know we were going to focus on you this morning. She's always
No, we got to
there.
focus on Kathy a little bit because Kathy and Christina, they rock it over there at La Sierra.
They do, and it's such a beautiful location, Chris. You had remodeled it a few years ago, and you walk
Yeah.
in.
Anybody?
Go ahead.
Kathy and Christina there are Monday through Friday. They're there all the time. Just go in for a little tour. They'd love to show you around, show you the facility. And that's probably the best time to ever visit a funeral home is when you're not needing it, because then you can really focus on what's there and you're not going through that grief, which we're going to talk a little bit about your gratitude and loss and grief today. So go and visit Kathy or Christina anytime, Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. They're there to take you on a tour and show you our great, beautiful facility over there off of La Sierra and Hole.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and they do. You have a really pretty, not only chapel and that open foyer, but the merchandise room with all the cool jewelry and things you can get. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you, Kathy and Christina, for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right into
Yeah.
it. Again, today we're talking about finding
Absolutely.
peace and gratitude.
Yeah.
And so if you, again, just housekeeping, if you have a question for Chris, he loves answering live questions. Please put it in the chat, or if you think this show might bring someone peace in their grief, we'd love for you to share it as well. So thank you for doing that in advance. Okay, so the very first question was a little bit long. It didn't all fit in here, but in what ways can embracing gratitude coexist with the pain of loss, without diminishing its significance? So, Chris, if you could answer that, I'll go right off screen.
Yeah, I know you gave me these questions like a day or two ago, and I've been really trying to ponder on how I can connect these questions here today. And so being like grateful and having gratitude towards those that you have lost. If you don't, you got to be thankful that you have grief if you have lost somebody. Because if you don't have the grief, that means you never really had that close relationship or that love for that person. And so it's the memories, you feel that separation, you're feeling that loss, and it tears you apart. But you know what? It also ties you closer to that person, because then you're able to share those wonderful stories and memories about that person. And I think if you don't have that opportunity to really grieve and appreciate that heartache, then you don't appreciate the things that you have in life as a living person. So I always want to take to heart that during the time that you have that loss, and I've lost a few family members over my lifetime. I've lost my dad and I've lost my wife. And during those times, that heartache, especially over those immediate days and even into the first couple months, it's really hard because you have that separation of that person. But you know what? It shows that you appreciate them more. And maybe you didn't have the opportunity to appreciate them as much as you did when they were alive. But unfortunately, through their loss, when you have that pain of grief, it shows how much actually you really did love and care for that person.
I love that. It's so true.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this before the show started. I saw this great quote that said, "Grief is just love that has nowhere to go." Because you
Yeah.
have all this love for it. There's a Andrew Garfield who was, I think he was Batman. He's a famous British actor. Um,
Uh-huh.
he lost his mother recently, and he's
Mm.
been very open about his grief and
Yeah.
what it's like. And he was on Sesame Street talking to Elmo about it.
Oh,
I'll have to share it with you, or I'll put it in the comments, the
there
video.
we go.
But he's said, don't be sad for me. Be happy that I had such a wonderful mother that now makes
Yeah.
me, every time I think of her, even though I'm sad, I'm embracing that sadness because it reminds me of her hugs,
Exactly.
of her kind words, her
Yeah.
actions, like what she did for me as a child. And so anyways, I thought that was kind of cool. Anyways,
And tying that around too, I have pictures of my dad around the funeral home, and there's a picture of my dad and I in the lobby of the funeral home,
uh-huh.
and I'll walk by it daily, and there's a couple pictures down our employee hallway and stuff, and it appreciates the again, we go back to legacy, which we talked about a few weeks ago, but it's the groundwork that he laid for me to do what I do today. And so I really appreciate all the things that he had done to lay the groundwork to perpetuate what we have here at Thomas Miller Mortuary in Corona, and then what I've been able to expand into other locations throughout Corona and Riverside.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect of it is that with my wife working at the pantry at Crossroads, after she passed away, they put a dedication plaque there. And then, when we go to the pantry and I go visit the folks there at the pantry, I always see her little plaque of the Rhonda Miller Memorial plaque above the food pantry. And it just reminds me of her caring heart, and it kind of brings back a little heartache that for a moment, just that little brief, oh, but then I'm like, oh, it brings me the joy of all the things that they've done.
Yeah. That's awesome. Didn't you also, I remember seeing a picture of you and your children planting a tree in her honor as well, didn't you?
Yep, we did that down at the Great Lawn at the City Hall. We've done that too. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a tree right down there where they always have all their summer festivals and the Lobster Fest and all those things. There's
Yeah.
a tree planted right there for her.
So it's kind of in a small
Yeah,
way, she's there. I mean, I know she's in heaven,
yeah, yeah.
but she's there. Oh, look at this. We have Diana Camba. She's here. Glad to be here. Awesome.
Morning, Diana.
Diana
Thanks for
is
joining us.
yes, and she is a grief coach in the Inland Empire, and we're looking forward to having her on a show soon to share
Yes,
her tips about grief. So
absolutely.
that's
Looking forward to
awesome.
it.
Yes. Oh, we have good morning, Steve, and what a legacy here. Work at the pantry. Yes, it is. It is a blessing to be able to work at the pantry and honor those who have started it and continue it. That
Yeah,
is awesome.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the next question, Chris. Again,
You
it's kind of
bet.
a
Let's see.
deep day, a deep dive day.
It is deep conversations today.
Yeah, which is important. I think it's important to have those hard conversations. I was watching a TED talk about that, and it was a gentleman wrote a book about uh, something about t- um, talking about death at dinner. I can't remember the exact book, but
Yeah,
he was basically saying that it's important to have those conversations
it is.
before, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
people
and
know what
we
you
can even
expect.
talk about that in a future episode. It's it's so death. Everybody wants to deny it, and you know what? We're not going to get out of this world without it.
Right.
So really, it's better to confront it and talk about it, and really get people's thoughts, and that's the best dinner conversation. I never tell people what I do for a living unless they ask me.
Right.
And then once I tell them what I do, oh my gosh, it's like it's 100 questions of this and that and everything. It's like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? And oh my goodness, this and that. And I'm like, whoa, slow down there. Let's just take one at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's why we started the show,
That's
right? Because you
right.
want to be able to answer those questions on a larger, because you can't have everybody in the world at your table, but you can have everybody in
No.
the world watch your show and your new podcast, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun. Okay, so let's get to
Okay.
the next
Let's do
question,
it.
Chris. And again, if anyone has any live questions, please let us know. So again, this one didn't completely fit, so I will read it to you.
Okay.
How can acknowledging our grief alongside feelings of gratitude contribute to emotional healing? And that's something
Oh,
that Diana helps with, emotional healing. So again, how can
yeah.
acknowledging our grief alongside feelings of gratitude contribute to our emotional healing? And I'll go
I'm
off.
sure Diana, when she comes on our show, I'm sure she'll be able to address this a little bit better. But you know what? Grief is part of the healing process of the loss of a loved one. And again, if you don't feel that grief or that heartache or that sadness within your heart, and again, sometimes you might not want to be social. You may not want to go out in public. You may want to alienate yourself. And maybe for a day or two, it might be okay to stay at home and just kind of reflect upon the loss. But I really feel that in taking yourself and going outside, getting back engaged with your friends and the community, I think that's a real healing too, because that'll give you that opportunity to begin to heal by talking about that person. So, again, the gratitude from the grief helps you through that loss by sharing it with others, getting out into the community, and letting other people kind of console you and give you the support that you need to carry on through life.
I love that. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I think that it's all in how you frame it, right? In your head,
absolutely.
because you mentioned something earlier about how if you don't, that it can destroy you. Can you share a little bit more
Absolutely.
about that? About how
Yeah, you know what?
grief can really crush you?
Grief can crush you. And I really think if you don't, there's so many people want to internalize their grief because they want to feel strong and stoic. Everybody wants to put it, especially men more than women. Women are a little bit more emotional. They kind of, and women have other women to talk to, where men are very stoic. They want to be strong. They got to have this big macho thing. So men don't like to show their emotions and cry and get it out. But when you internalize your grief and you hold it in, for at least from my perspective, if you hold in your grief, it really kind of hardens your heart. It starts to like have your heart and your feelings shrink, and then it kind of you feel like your life is closing in on you because you're letting your grief overcome your joy. And you've got to allow that opportunity of healing by getting those emotions of the loss out. And by doing that, I mean, again, your gratitude and grief is having the appreciation that you have grief, but you got to let it go. You've got to let it go, and through time, by talking it through and experience things that maybe memorialized your loved one, you start that healing process. And when you can heal your grief by like getting yourself vulnerable, putting yourself out there, I think is what you need to do. And I encourage men to do that. And if it means, hey, finding a close buddy and going out to lunch, or finding someone having a cup of coffee, you got to find that trustworthy person. And if you can't, maybe it'd be time to maybe find a spiritual coach or a counselor, maybe somebody that you don't know. Maybe you feel more comfortable talking to someone that is a stranger, that you can just kind of let everything out. and let the good things and the bad times, because even those that you love, you always had maybe a conflict here or two, because being married for 25 years, my wife and I, we had our ups and downs. We had our good times and our bad times. And it also, you want to get those things out too, because if you have those conflicts, you want to get it off your heart. So then your heart can heal and you will feel better. So between the grief and the frustration that you may have with those that you've lost, you want to get it out off your heart, and it'll help you through your grief. And you know what? If it helps you through your grief, there's your gratitude again. If finding joy by letting things go.
I love that. Nice tie-in. I have the good.
Yeah.
In fact, I so believe in joy. Like I literally have that sign behind me, to
Yeah.
remind me, right, to live in joy.
Yeah, you gotta live in
Because
joy.
life is short. And when you said about going through different stages, on the website, I'll put it up here, thomasmillermortuary.com. There are lots of resources
Yeah.
for grief support, and we're always inviting people to write articles for us, and we're going to be doing more of that this year, of
Yeah.
ways that people can find support that they're comfortable with, because there's online support where you can talk to
Yeah.
someone by phone or in a group setting. You can
Yeah.
also find someone at a local church that you can talk to one-on-one. And there's also a lot of courses that people have. And like our friend Diana, she's a grief coach. So people
Yes.
who can help you one-on-one kind of move through the grief, which is
Yeah.
so important, right? And if you
Yeah.
need someone to talk to, Chris, I'm so sorry. I was going to say, I'm going to put up the phone numbers. Here
Perfect.
locally, you can call the Corona Chapel, which is because we're on a podcast, we have to read the numbers, 951-737-3244, or the Sierra Memorial Chapel, which is in Riverside, which is 951-687-0551. So again, there's someone there to speak with you. We also have a compassion bot on our website, the Thomas Miller Mortuary website, that can answer some questions as well. So you're
Yeah.
not even, you can, in the totally anonymous, what do you call it? Anonymous?
Anonymously. Anonymously.
Anonymously, yes, can ask questions, and that's very helpful as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, getting back to our episode 21, how to find peace and gratitude. I have the last question for you today. Let's see. Oh, I do have
Yeah.
somebody came on.
Oh.
Oh, wow. A professional is giving a compliment. The support on your website is amazing. Good job, Chris.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome. Yes. And she would
We're
know.
trying, and it's always evolving. Our website. A good website is a website that it evolves and it is adding content. And we are always trying to add content, grief support content, educational content in regards to funeral services and ceremonies and options. So a good website is an evolving website.
Yes, a living document.
Yes,
Oh, and she also said helping people through grief is a ministry. And thank you
it
for
is.
all you do in the community. That's awesome. It really is a ministry. And Chris, I was actually just telling somebody that recently about you,
Yeah.
saying that, we've been friends for 20 plus years. And I
Yeah.
remember at a funeral of a young woman, that was a mutual friend of ours. I was helping coordinate the potluck for the mom, and we were standing in the lobby of the church, and you said something that I don't think you know how much it touched me. You said that your business isn't really a business; it's a ministry,
It
and that
is.
you're in the field trying to bring hope to people, and your team is there to catch them when they're
Absolutely.
feel like they're falling. And I
That's
even
right.
have shivers right now thinking about that. It was like so off the cuff, like it's so ingrained in how you and your team think, that really is a ministry to
Yes.
help people through it. So again, thank you for that.
Oh, you bet. Thank you.
It's funny how things you remember,
Oh,
right?
really? I mean, that's
Oh,
why when we have good connections with the families that we serve, we get so many compliments from the family saying, you know what, thank you for kind of holding our hand through those times. And that's the first part of us, the funeral home, our funeral directors and our funeral counselors, and even our aftercare attendants, Alexandra and Elliot, when they meet with our families and stuff afterwards. It's about helping guide people through their grief, because there's so much going on after the loss of a loved one. We're here to get you through every step of it.
yeah.
And every phase is a little bit different, but what we try to do is to just take it in bits and pieces to help you lighten that heart and hopefully bring joy back into your heart sooner than later.
I love that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
grief hits you sometimes when you least expect it. So
Yes.
it's an ongoing thing. Like my mom, this I think I've said before, my mom this year will be her 20th year in heaven.
Yeah.
And, every once in a while it comes out of the blue, and
Yeah.
it's nice to know that if I need to reach out, I know where to go. So, all
Absolutely.
right. Okay. So the last question of today um,
Okay.
is how can individuals, oh, this is again another long one. I need to read it. How can individuals overcome feelings of guilt associated experiencing joy? In fact, that is a longer, and I didn't read the whole thing. How can individuals overcome feelings of guilt associated with experiencing joy or gratitude after a loss? Like, is there guilt when you're happy? Like you like, oh no, I'm
Sure.
happy. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Sure. I don't know how we deal with it, but I know that for a while, and it's more maybe in the first couple months of after the loss of a loved one that you feel guilty about since that person's there, like you feel guilty about going out to do pleasurable things because like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving my loved one behind. I'm doing something, I'm experiencing something that maybe would have brought them joy too. And so you feel like, oh my gosh, it's like I should just stay home today and I shouldn't go out because I'm I'm not being able to bring my loved one along with me. But you need to turn that around. So don't allow that feeling guilty. Think of that loved one being with you through that journey and taking the time and the steps. So if you're going to experience those things that you remember, like going to a concert together or going to a special place like a Disneyland or going hiking or doing whatever you might have done together, don't feel guilty about doing it without those that you've left behind or that have left you. Um, Bring them along with your journey of healing. And I think that's one way to really turn it around. I mean, it just, for me, I just like, it just a little light bulb just went on my head and said, yeah, don't leave them just because they've left us and not here physically. You can bring them along on your spiritual and mental journey and say, oh gosh, I remember the times we did this together, and turn it into a positive really. And maybe you're on that hike or that concert or doing that something special with other friends now, and maybe friends that you did it with that person. Because I know, like Ron and I traveled with a lot of our close friends and some family members, and we did trips to Hawaii and we did trips to like Napa Valley and things like that. And there's sometimes that we go back to those places still and they're not there, but it's like, oh, remember the one time that maybe that loved one really did something funny or something outstanding, and you can remember it, and you're really, instead of like feeling guilty that you're in that, it brings back the joy of the times that you did spend with that person. So don't turn your guilt into a really a positive thing of remembering your loved one and bringing them back into the conversation. uh, and it would actually maybe do a little healing of the grief. And again, that's where that grief kind of comes around and becomes a healing part of your journey of moving forward.
I love that. In fact, that may remind me of what I was doing off screen as I was looking for the movie. Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon was in a recent movie, and I can't remember the name of it. But his wife had died, and his daughter was getting married, and so there was a moment where he was
Mm-hmm.
out like on the lawn, like the night before the wedding, and he had a glass of champagne,
Yeah.
and Reese Witherspoon was like walking out, like didn't know. She thought, "Oh, I'm interrupting," because he was talking to his wife, holding a glass of champagne up to the sky, and he
Oh,
said, "I really wish you could be here today,
yeah.
but I'd like you to come to the wedding with me." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh," like,
Yeah.
and so that I think endeared Reese because they were like fighting, it was like in the movie they were having a conflict. And it endeared her to him because
Yeah.
she was like, "Wow, he's not a jerk. He's missing his wife and he wants his wife to be here
Yeah.
on their daughter's wedding day." And so by
Yeah.
him toasting to her in heaven, I thought that was so precious. And what a great idea, Chris, that you said is like bring them along on your special occasions. I love that.
Well, and that ties it just by you mentioning that. That happened at my daughter's wedding. My wife
Really?
wasn't there. That my wife wasn't there to be part of my daughter's wedding here like 2 years ago. And as I walked my daughter Reagan down the aisle, at the end, you always have to say, her mother and I give this woman up, in marriage. And I said, her mother from heaven and I. And so it was really touching because I wanted to commemorate that Rhonda was part of bringing along my daughter, or else my daughter wouldn't have been there. So
Right.
I had said, my wife from heaven and I present
That's
you.
sweet. That's so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And on that note, your daughter recently had a baby. Congratulations, Grandpa.
Yes. I'm a grandpa for the first time, and I'm called Papa Chris.
Papa
That's
Chris.
my official name, Papa Chris.
I love it. Like, kind of
Yeah.
rings true. Speaking of Will Ferrell, it rings true of Elf. Remember Papa Elf? I love it.
There we
Papa
go.
Chris. And I just found the name of the movie. It's called You're Cordially Invited. So just giving a little shout out to that movie. I think it's on Netflix or something. But
perfect.
Yeah, so just tying that all together. All right, Chris. Well, those are the 3 questions we had today. On episode 21 of How to Find Peace and Gratitude on the Dialogues of About Death show. And we want to thank everyone who came here live and to let them know that our next show again is on April 11th.
April 11th.
I cannot believe it's already March and we're going to be in April.
I know. We're marching right along through this month and through the year.
Oh, marching right along. Look at you. Look at you. And we had one last comment. Oh my goodness. We have a new guest. When I do what my loved ones enjoyed, I feel closer to them and it makes me happy.
Yes.
Arlene, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
You're right.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And they're just smiling on you from heaven, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
That's great. All right. So again, the next show is on April 11th. We're looking forward to seeing you. If today has blessed you in any way, or you think of that it might bring comfort to someone you know and love, we'd love for you to share the show. Again, we also have this show on YouTube on a podcast, and soon all over. We're gonna spread it out because I think this message is so important, Chris.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for everybody for joining us today. Until then, from Chris Miller and the Thomas Miller Mortuary and Crematory, we thank you for being here today. And until then, anything else you want to say, Chris?
Just have a happy Pie Day. And if you can enjoy dessert, if you're not fasting from dessert, go out there and splurge.
I love it. Well, if you weren't fasting, Chris, just on the last note, what's your favorite kind of pie?
I like pecan pie.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I like banana cream.
Oh, well, that's a good one too, Mary. There's a lot of pie. I like berry pie, like boysenberry pie, a la mode.
Oh, yeah. I'll bring it. Now you're making me hungry. It's 9. You can't have pie at 9 o'clock in the morning. My goodness sakes. That's just.
You can have pie anytime.
Thanks for permission. You know, that's right. Life is short. Eat dessert first. That's our.
There you go.
All right, Chris.
Have a great day, everybody.
Hang on the stream, and we're going to end the show. But again, we'll see you guys back on April 11th. And until then, God bless. Have a great day.
All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.